or somebody who's a celebrity. I see myself as somebody who's giving more than enough. You don't get paid to do podcasts. That's fine. Keep giving. Giving more than enough will actually build you momentum to give you what you want. The more you give to others, the more you give to yourself. Now, that might not make sense in the beginning, but eventually, opportunities will come from many places. What's good, y'all? This is Midas Drop, and thank y'all for tuning in. This is the very first episode, the intro to the series of what we're gonna call the journey ratio. Now, my story and my building of a legacy, I would like to say, is more so about the people. See, I am like an advocate for networking. So when I think about being successful as an entrepreneur, starting out my very first business, I failed in one thing and then it trickled down to another. I failed in networking and I failed in being very resourceful. Networking and resourceful go hand in hand. So this podcast is mainly for the people. We are Midas Print because we have three things in common. We got time, effort, and energy. If you don't have any money, you have these three things. And this is the only thing that does not divide us as human beings, is Midas Print. We all have this. We all creative. We all have the effort and time. Nobody has a shortage in this. This is what makes us unique. This is what makes you unique. This is what makes you stand out. Your thumbprint. And when you listen, make it your own. Somebody else's story is your story. Now, let's get into this. I call this the journey ratio because I want people to understand how detrimental your ratio versus win and losses. So I took a big loss with my first business. Big loss, huge one. I didn't know enough. But the way I got through it was showing up. That was my first small win. The second was writing my goals down. That's my second small win. The third is always putting in your best effort, meaning not underestimating anything as far as effort goes that you'll have to put in. Putting in 80 hours or 60 plus hours, you have to do it. You have to. So make sure you fill up your calendar because that's what I'm definitely doing. Now, when I say small wins over losses, I'm talking about big losses. Your big losses can be bitten down, bite size. It's like taking down an elephant with a bunch of small wins. These are the things that are going to build up good habits. And this is what I mean. Small wins. Small wins are like dopamine that fuel us to stay motivated and constantly going for our dreams. Now, I would say that your losses are bad. Not necessarily. My losses actually helped me fall forward and upward towards more opportunities. These opportunities became yeses. I say yes to everything now. I need to fill up my calendar. These are the small wins that came from the big losses. The more you fill it up, the better. Now, I started this podcast with a goal in mind. Is to reach people, of course, because we the people, we are Midas Print. But at the same time, I want people to understand that other people's experiences are yours, just in a different perspective, in a different business. All businesses are nearly the same, they just come at different angles. So, when somebody tells their story, don't look at your story as being less than theirs. We all have a great story. Look, the story is symbolical to your success. The more you take pride in your story and reiterate it over and over, the people will understand you and become familiarized with your success and your story. Now, that doesn't mean you stop at the story. You build on that story. And you keep going from the beginning to where you're at now. It's like a timeline. You don't start in the middle of the timeline. You want to start from the beginning to the now. This is why now is your time. You don't want to spend time wasting on not telling your story. This is why podcast is super important. You keep marketing yourself, you keep telling your story to others and letting people know other people's story. You're putting yourself on and you're also putting others on. This is what you want. This is my vision for others, is to have everybody in this together. This is why it's called Midas Print. Not my print, it's our print. It is a we thing and we in this together. Now, I don't see myself as just a podcaster or influencer or somebody who's a celebrity. I see myself as somebody who's giving more than enough. You don't get paid to do podcasts. That's fine. Keep giving. Giving more than enough will actually build you momentum to give you what you want. The more you give to others, the more you give to yourself. Now, that might not make sense in the beginning, but eventually opportunities will come from many places. Look, we are in a social media age, which I like to call the golden age, perhaps, because Wi-Fi has made it easy and it's also becoming expansive. We're going into a global market, and that's why I have the vision for reaching more than just my circle, more than just my city. I can reach global networks, and that's why I feel like it's very important to make it in a sense where everybody's included. Nobody's not included. So when you watch Midas Print, you are not just getting information. You are not just getting, a type of upliftment. It is you. It is you watching me and me speaking to you, giving you what you should be giving yourself, or maybe you already are giving yourself this. Let's amplify that. That's what I want to do. Now, when you give like the way I want to give, you giving yourself the unfair advantage. Giving makes you give the unfair advantage in all that you do. Whether you lack money, remember the 3 common things that we have in common: time, effort, and energy. We all have it. You master these 3 things in creating first increments in what you're doing, the small wins, and then you increase it into surges, right? Then you become the master of what? The master of your time, the master of your effort, and the master of your energy. Money follows these 3 things. Money doesn't follow those who are born into wealth. It was given, right? By their parents who mastered those 3 things. If you have time, money, and effort, time, effort, and energy, there's a lot of free resources. You got social media, you got WordPress, you can create a website for free. Open source. So this is me telling you that you just have to be in the space of creativity, maximize your time. The way you maximize your time is you fill up your calendar. You keep your calendar filled with people that you got to meet. Whatever industry you plan to be in. So mine, for example, is real estate. I want to be a real estate investor. I don't want to just be a real estate investor. That's how I was at first. I want to be a real estate investor. Okay, now I started reading books. I invested myself in the books, and then I started reading books on apartment buildings. And then I met a mentor who taught me about raising capital. Then I read a book on raising capital. Now I'm like, oh, I'm a real estate investor, but I also want to raise capital. I also want to own apartment complexes. You see how this goes? At first it started small, but I didn't give up. I kept putting the time and effort and energy. Didn't have any money, but what was more important? What was more important? Those 3 things that I iterate: time, energy, and effort. Now, you can't just let a day go by thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. In fact, it just becomes the day again. So this is why now is your time. You don't want to waste it. You don't want to waste it on the little bitty problems that are going on around you. Believe it or not, if you're watching this, I was going through the same thing as you. In fact, it wasn't too long ago where I was sitting at home, letting time go by. It's 5 years ago. Letting time go by, thinking about what could be done rather than just doing what I can. Doing what you can benefits you more than just thinking what you cannot do and what you think you should do, right? Taking away that paralysis analysis and actually doing gives you that dopamine to keep doing. See, we're expanding energy whether we think we're not. What do I mean by this? You can be at home watching TV. You're expanding energy. You know how I know? Because you can be sitting at home and you do have a bed schedule, whether there's 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock at night. By the time that 12 o'clock hits, you're going to be sleepy. Whether you put the effort in towards your dreams and trying to build your dreams and build other people around you, you still expending energy. So what are you afraid of? You have to think about it. You have to think long and hard about it and gaining clarity. Clarity will move you forward. It actually gets you out of this slump thought of thinking that you cannot do anything, when everything is literally given to us with nothing these days. Social media is a catalyst for building businesses. YouTube is the biggest catalyst for building businesses and podcasts. So, I go to say this. Make the news. Make the news. If you have a product, if you have anything to give to somebody, whether it's motivation, if it's a certain skill you want to teach, make the news. Everybody's making the news. The people you watching on Instagram is making the news. The people you watch on YouTube are making the news. Not just CNBC anymore, not just CNN, not just ABC News. Everybody has been given the ability to make the news, become a celebrity, become famous. That's why we call them influencers. You must make the news. I tell you this because once you make the news, this is where networking becomes more effective. Not just in your hometown. When you make the news, you reach more than just your hometown. You can reach the globe. And this doesn't go to say that you won't have to put in as much efforts as you networking. You'll probably have to put in more because you have to ask people to follow you. You have to constantly be posting content, people to get to know you. You have to become excellent at building a team of content creators to get the best content out there and help you critique your content so that people will follow you and stick with you. We don't want fans. We want supporters. We don't want just, oh, that was a great speech or that was a great video. It was a short video and they don't watch a podcast. No, we want people to actually watch and feed off of what you post, what you put out there. See, we want an expansion. We want to expand the mind of others. That's why when you do make the news, you must create a movement. You must have action when you speak. You must take action constantly. People have to know you. See, I did two things when I started my business. I underestimated. Then I got lazy. I got brain fog. I literally forgot everything I read about in the book about the amount of effort you have to put in, the right thinking. See, when I got startled, I hesitated and went back into my old ways. The old way is to work. Look, work without thinking is actually a lot easier than actually thinking itself. Thinking is hard work. Work itself is easy. But thinking and then working takes tremendous amount of effort. And this is where I'm telling you from my experience, this is where I'm at. I'm like, my business failed. I was sitting, staring at the ceiling and thinking 30 minutes a day. What can I do next? I'm like, oh, it finally clicked with me. That's right. My problem is obscurity. My problem is people don't know me. I'm expecting people to know me just by me working, a delivery guy, doing DoorDash, doing Amazon Flex, you don't get to see those people when you drop the food off at their door. You don't get to see those people when you drop off an Amazon package at their door. That was my problem. I had a shortage of thinking. I guess too much oxygen was going to my brain, little thinking. And it affected me tremendously. But when I got the time to just rest and slow down, that's where I was the most effective. Mostly effective. And that's where I came upon wanting to get rid of this problem called obscurity, which is probably a major problem to most people. Because things happened in the last 3 years. We had COVID. Now we having, job losses. People don't want to work. And we can all make excuses and say, oh yeah, COVID made us lazy. No, it probably has always been that way. It's just, we were just at the tip of the iceberg with COVID. And I go to say this. You have to put in work. Doesn't mean we're not going back to physical work. Let's just say that. We're not. In this day and age, we're not going back to physical work. It has to be work that is creative, that is innovative, that is going to move people. See, you have to think, what does it take to be creative? It takes 3 things. It takes thinking, doing, and reiterating. You have to keep reiterating a skill. Whatever skill it may be that you're creating this thing from, a product, maybe an app, right? These people that create these things do the same thing every day, over and over. See, my thing is, I want to write a book. I want to write blogs. I want to get into real estate. I want to do this, and this. I want to get people to know me. I want to get people to know who I am. The biggest problem with all those things was obscurity. Was you have to write every day. The next is, how much do you know about real estate? You have to constantly become a master in those things. You have to be willing to work for other people, not for free, but it's going to feel like for free because the payoff comes later. That's what networking is like. The payoff comes later. Don't think of in terms of money. Think of in terms of energy, people, and time. Time is the most valuable commodity. Then comes your effort. Then comes your energy. Then comes the people. It takes energy to network. Trust me. Believe me. It is. That's why it's called networking. You got people who have the net worth. Now you have to work in those rooms and talking to them and getting your message out. And then you might have to do a favor here and there. Because that is how people familiarize themselves with you. They're like, oh, such and such helped me do this. He's such a nice person. But I'm willing to help him whenever he needs it. See, we have been taught to just work for money and thinking that's going to get us where we need to go. But we never been taught how to make money work for us. And that is the gig. People don't want to put in the time, put in their money to put out content, not understanding the bigger picture. But we watch television on the bigger screen. It doesn't ever make sense until something hits us. See, I like to think of what makes people entrepreneurs. Like myself, there's 2 things that equal success. There's vanity and then there's pain. Doing things in vain over and over contributes to pain, and then it becomes a success. Only if you're aware. Only if you're aware of what is troubling you. See, people continue to complain, and complaining actually affects us in the long run. The more we complain, the more we shrivel down to our problems. But imagine if you just think. You think just to create. You'll create bigger opportunities that bring on gigantic problems. That's what you should want. You should want those problems, not the little boring old ass problems that your friends come with, that you've been dealing with for 5 years and they haven't went away because you actually enjoy the shit. You enjoy it. If you didn't, you would shut up and did the work. You became very creative. And this is where I became creative. I got tired of just reading books, just sitting at home reading books, dealing with paralysis analysis. You get what I'm saying? Paralysis analysis. You become stuck in the thought process of just reading up on information that you already read up on another book, but just haven't got to the point of doing. And not to say that you're not gonna make mistakes. Those are mistakes that I made, and I'm happy I made them, because when I read a book now, I understand that what I'm reading is just to remind me of the shit I'm supposed to be doing. Because I understand that subconsciously I have been driven to think a certain way. Now I have to push twice as hard, maybe 10 times it. 10 times as hard to get in a mindset that allows me to be rich and think of abundance, think of optimizing, think of controlling and creating systems that actually help me create more things in my life that I actually want, that I actually deserve. See, everything that you want and deserve is in your hands. Just like Midas. He wished for these things, and everything he touched turns to gold. And this is why I tell you that this podcast is for you. You are Midas Print. We are Midas Print. And this is why we must control our thinking, control our environment, control what we see on a daily basis. Look, you can control the scoreboard anytime. You just gotta look at the ratio. You gotta look at your journey, how far you came, then look at the ratio. What losses have you accumulated and what wins have you accumulated? If you have 4 losses, big losses, and 3 small wins, you got a lot of work to do, because you're gonna have to 10x those wins to take over those 4 big losses in your life. The 4 big losses, I guarantee it, because you're probably thinking small, is the reason that you haven't started to make any small wins. Look, the small wins can be created at any time. I will give you some. Write your goals down. Make them big. Make them ultimate. Make them extravagant. Make them bring the fear out of you, right? And fear is just the false evidence of things appearing real. But you need that. You need to understand where it comes from. Big goals, bigger than you. So you can take out the small guy that's within and bring the big guy within. Write your goals down every day, right? Don't forget it. I write mine down 3 times a day. The second is to journal. Journal down your thoughts, man. You probably overthinking. You probably scared. But once you look at what's on the paper, you bring your thoughts to life. They're not as scary as they're supposed to be. You're not going to be in fear. See, that's how you get rid of fear. You write it down. You bring it to life, and you see that it's not really a big deal. Writing your problems down, looking what they are, really not that serious. If you have a problem with money, write your budget down, see where the money's going. See? When you have things in your mind and you're not writing them down, they just continue to torment you. But when you write them down and you see what they truly are, you realize they're just small problems to begin with. Third is you want to beat the sun up. Yes, beat the sun up. That's a challenge. That's free. That's a free challenge. It don't cost nothing to do these things. But these are small wins. Small wins will make a bigger effect in the long run. It's progress. That's how we should be moving. That's how you should want to move. And the next thing is getting in the gym. Doesn't matter if you're in there for 20 minutes. Don't matter if you just like the treadmill for a while. Get in it. These are personal development. You have to take it personal. This is the only way you're going to get to where you're going, on top of the skills you want to accumulate. Take it day by day. Day by day, make sure your ratio is right, that you have 10 times the small wins than the losses that you have. Maybe somebody messed up your day. Look, I'm a teacher. I got kids that mess up my day all the time, easily. But guess what? My morning started at 4, while theirs started at 6. Guess how many wins I got done before they even got to mess up my day? I got at least 5 against their 1. 5 against 1. And then I go home and I make some more wins. Easy. Our wins can be created every day, all day. If you need more wins than you have losses, just keep writing your goals down. Find something. See, we can always find something. We always find excuses. Man, there's a lot of those. And we have to ask, what are excuses? What are excuses? They call them reasons. They're not reasons. They're excuses. It's like, excuse me, you're making too much noise. You're making us feel bad about your success. You see how that sounds? That sounds burdensome to the person who's succeeding. And they shouldn't have to feel bad. They put in the same amount of work, because what we have in common, 3 things in common. We have time, effort, and energy. We have no excuse. Please stop the excuses. Look, I understand there's a lot of noise in the market. I understand that. And that's why I started a podcast, because I want to dominate obscurity itself. I don't want to dominate the competition. Look, competition is not my concern. My concern is knowing that I'm dominating. That's the only thing I care about. I don't care about my competitors winning. I care about my wins and me dominating whatever it is that I want to dominate in. See, when you're the only competition, there's no competition. They're just associates at this point. You don't want to compete. You want to dominate your life, your losses. Every moment you get, find something to win in. It could be giving food to a homeless man. It could be sharing your friend's content, because I know a lot of people, man, they don't want to share. They don't want to buy a book from their friend. They don't want to buy whatever it is from their entrepreneur friend. But look, if you just give, right? Giving costs us nothing. All it costs is our time, effort, and energy. If you just give that post, that share, that like to your friend, because the only thing is the algorithm. You have to give to your friend. And I go to say this, that this is the first podcast and it's not the last. You have to tune in to Midas Print. This is for you. This is your growth. This is the beginners. Those that want to be entrepreneurs, that want to be business owners, that want to be in the real estate, that want to be investors, that want to be the best that they can be, and feel like anything they touch turn to gold. But remember, be careful what you wish for. Now, I go to say this as well, that not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's going to want to be a CEO. Not everybody want to run a business. But the thing is, we're in a creator's economy, which makes it more than enough for us to live off the content we create. So that's why I go on to be saying, creator, be creative, maximize your time and effort, because regardless if you plan on being an entrepreneur, running your own business, or getting into real estate, you still have an upper hand. You still have a share of market, because we're in a creator's economy. We're going into it whether you like it or not. And I gotta bring you on. I gotta bring you on the ride, the journey ratio, the first episode of the chapter of Midas Drop. Thank you.